Now that we've talked about compound interest and we've talked about annuities, we have one more type of investment to talk about, and that's installment loans. And installment loans are kind of backwards annuities. We could put that up here, backwards annuities. And the reason I call them backwards annuities is because with annuities you make small deposits throughout the investment period and you get a big chunk at the end. With an installment loan, it's a loan. It's like your credit card where we made a deposit, it's like your credit card where we made a purchase and we got a big chunk of money out from the credit card as a loan, and we put it onto a purchase of a couch or whatever you want it to buy. It's the same thing for installment loans. You get a big chunk of money out at the start, and then you make payments forever and ever and ever to pay it off. Okay, so installment loans would be used for things like car loan and home loans, and any other type of loan that you might take, like a payday loan or any kind of loan like that. So we have, the idea is that we get a lump sum at the start and we make payments later. And you don't get to choose how much you pay what they tell you, right? Okay, so our formula for this one is a little bit different. It starts with P equals, and then it has F times little q, and then little q raised to the big T minus 1 over q minus 1. Now for this formula we are definitely going to need to use our store and recall buttons. It gets too complicated and our decimals always go on and on. So we'll start off, our little p is the same as for the annuities, it's R over N. Our capital T is the same as for annuities, it is N times T. And then the new thing is our Q, and the Q stands for 1 over 1 plus that little p. So we have a couple of things, 3 things that we calculate before we can do anything with our formula. And then the other thing we need to know, the P is our present value or our loan amount. And our F, like I said, this one's a little bit different. Our F is the payments, the size of the payment. Okay, so that's the payment amount. And then we have one more thing that you can think of writing down a formula for if you want. The total paid for a particular loan is going to be the payment, the P, or the F in this case, I'm sorry, the F, which is our payment. Oh my goodness. Times excuse me, times the capital T, which is the number of payments. And then the interest paid, if you need to find that, the interest, that's going to be the total paid minus the capital P, the amount you financed, the amount of your loan. Okay, so I want to show you an example. It's a more complicated formula, so I want to make sure we've seen this. You get a loan of $4,700. So a loan of $4,700. Right there, I need to see nothing else. I know I need to use the installment loan formula because I see the word loan. And that's telling me I get a chunk of money at the start and I'm going to make payments on it. So if you get a loan of $4,700, you're probably going to be using this formula. And we want to know how much will we have to pay per month to pay off the loan in 3 years. So here's our interest rate and here's our number of years, and we are paying per month. That clinches it for me. I'm definitely talking about installment loans because I'm making monthly payments. So this tells me also that my N is 12 because it's monthly. My T is 3. My R is 0.1125. My R is 0.1125, and my loan amount, or my P in this problem, is the $4,700. So I have quite a bit of information already, so let's see if I can figure anything out yet. I need to calculate my little p, that's the R over N, and I do have 0.1125, and my N was 12 for 12 months in a year. And now I want to calculate that real quick, so we'll use this calculator, and I'll do the 0.1125 divided by 12. Remember, that's my periodic rate as well, and so I have 0.009375, and it looks like that one terminates, but it is kind of a long one. So I am just going to store it real quick in X, and so I put that one into X, so I'll just put a little symbol above here so I know where I stored it. And then I need to calculate my big T, that's N times T, the number of compoundings times the number of years. So I have 12 times 3, and that comes to 36. So that means if I count up the number of months in 3 years, that's 36 months, and that's how many payments I'll be making. So this is the number of payments. Number of payments. 36. And then next thing I need is that Q, because that's a new thing for us, but I use the P and the capital T to or the little p at least to calculate it. So it's 1 over 1 plus little p, and so that's going to be 1 over 1 plus little p is going to be 1 plus 0.009375. And I have that sitting on my calculator, so I can just say plus 1. And that gives me that denominator, and so I have 1 divided by 1.009375. Now remember what that inverse button is for? It does 1 divided by whatever is sitting on your calculator. And this is the perfect time for us to use that. So this little inverse button right here or right here, those are the ones I want to use next because I have the denominator and I just want to do 1 divided by it. Perfect opportunity. Let's use the inverse button on that answer. And it gave me a fraction. Let me turn it into a decimal. There. So I have now 0.990712, and it goes on and on. This I definitely want to store, so I'm going to put that one into Y. And so I'll store, and I'll have to click the X and then the Y and then push enter. So now that's stored in my Y variable. That's my Q, it's in the Y variable, so we'll remember that. Now I can come over and start my formula. I know that my P, the amount of my loan, is $4,700, and my F, or my payment value, is what I'm going to solve for, and then I have to multiply by Q, which is going to be this 0.9907, and it goes on, and I have it stored in Y. So I'm just going to write that, and then I have the big parentheses, Q again, 0.9907, it goes on and on, stored in Y, to the, I believe it's to the T, yes, to the T, and my T was 36 for 36 payments, so 36 minus 1, and then that's all over Q minus 1, which is 0.9907, on and on, stored in Y, minus 1. And there's my formula. Now I've written all the values out in the formula at least one time so that I can see, and so that Mrs. Brown can see, that you've got all the correct values in the correct positions in your formula. If the formula is not already on the same page, you should write the empty formula right up above and then your filled in version of it so I can see exactly what you're solving for. Okay, now to solve. Inside the parentheses, I think I need to calculate the numerator first, store it, and then calculate the denominator, and then either store that or do the 1 over button, whichever, and then calculate this whole part inside the parentheses, and then finally multiply. So calculate this whole part and then multiply by this part, and then I'm going to have to use the 1 over or divide by a recall and take care of dividing by this value on the left hand side. Okay, let's try it out. A lot of words, not very much action. Let's get back to it. So I have $4,700 equals F times, and I'm just going to show this as a Y now. And I need to do Y to the 36. So I have got that sitting on my calculator still, so I'll just do to the 36 equals, and I'm getting 0.7 0.7146, and it goes on, minus 1, and in the denominator I haven't done anything yet, so I'm just going to leave it. And so I have that sitting on my calculator, subtract the 1, and now I have negative 0.2853, on and on. And I'm going to store that one in, maybe I'll store that in Z. So store XYZ, enter. So that numerator I have stored in Z. Going back, I want to look at that denominator. So remember, whatever was in Y, I have to just subtract 1. So I'm going to recall. So second, store, and I want the Y value. And that one I have to just subtract 1. And that's coming to a negative number as well. And that's this one, negative 0.009 to etc. I think I should store that one. It looks like my next variable is A, or T. I'll put it in T so that I can store in T. So I'll just say store A, X, Y, Z, T, the next variable. And so that one's stored. Now I need to do Z divided by T. So I will do recall X, and I can scroll down, there's Z, enter, divided by recall. I'm going to scroll down to T, enter. Now it's sitting on my calculator. Push enter one more time and it'll calculate that whole fraction for me. So now I have for that fraction 30.72, and it goes on, and then I need to multiply by that Y still, times F equals 4,700. Okay, we're almost out of space. We must almost be finished, right? So multiply this one times, I'm going to recall, and it was in Y, so move down to Y, push enter, enter one more time, and it gives me a value 30.43, and it does go on, times F. I'm going to show the 1 over method because I like that, it's quicker for me. So 4,700 equals all of this, so I'm going to do 1 over that 30.43. So using my inverse button for the answer, and then times 4,700 because I'm multiplying both sides by the inverse, and then I get F equals 154.429, so 0.43. So what that means is you will need to make payments of 154.43 to pay your $4,700 per month. Okay? Okay, for the other calculators, I'm going to have you work the next two problems and check your answers online. And what I'll do is, for the examples that I embed where you can watch the video if you're not sure how to do it, I'll show different calculators on those so that you can see how to use the other calculators. I'm pretty sure you know, but just in case you need to see it again.